was not built for killers. It was not built for thieves. It was not built for people who tear up the property. Public housing was built for low-income people.
I'm Mike Wallace.
I'm Morley Safer.
I'm Harry Reasoner.
In slums, islands of despair in otherwise prosperous big cities. One problem may be the huge bureaucracies that run the housing projects. One answer may be tenant power. What would happen if the people who live among the devastation were given the responsibility to look after their own front yards? St. Louis, the Vaughan Public Housing Project is like so many others. Whole buildings totally vacant. Even occupied buildings have the look of a war zone, bashed in and picked over by vandals. And inside is more of the same and worse. The halls and corridors reek with the stench of human waste. Back in the 70s, one complex, Pruitt-Igoe, got so bad that the St. Louis City Fathers could find only one rather dramatic solution. And just 10 blocks from Vaughan, another public housing project called Cochrane. 10 blocks yet worlds apart. The reason why Cochrane looks like this and not like this, maybe this.
How's school?
This woman, Bertha Gilkey, a dynamo of a housing activist in St. Louis.
You got some good grades?
It takes more than money, it takes attitude, she says, to change neighborhoods.
We didn't just fix it up. We changed the people. We changed the thinking of the people. We sit down with our people and we re-educate our people. And we trained them how to live. We taught them how to live in public housing, how to use the incinerator, okay, the proper way to use it, how to dispose of their garbage, and even the families that live here. Before they moved into the buildings that were renovated, they've been living in Cochrane almost 40 years. They had to go through an orientation. If people are urinating on elevators that are not renovated, when you renovate them, they're going to keep urinating. If they're tearing out the walls, the old walls, when you put in new walls, they're going to tear them out.
After Pruitt-Igoe was blown up, the tenants at Cochrane thought they would be next. They mobilized and cleaned up the place, then took over the management of Cochrane in 1976 from the City Housing Authority, which pays them a management fee for the 765 apartments. Bertha, with the help of local businessmen and City Hall, got $27 million in federal funds to renovate it. The best measure of Cochrane's success is this: expensive private housing built right across the road. The city still provides maintenance staff, but it's all overseen by the residents, and that seems to make the difference. That and a careful screening and selection process.
We look for people who are willing to buy in to our concept.
When you say buy-in, you don't mean for money.
No, I mean the standards that we've been able to develop in Cochrane, such as be willing to sweep their own hall. Everybody has a certain day you have to sweep their own hall. Be willing to look out for their neighbor. Being willing to supervise their children. Being willing to be a good neighbor and be a good ally in the community.
It goes further than that, though, because you encourage people to, I hate to use the word, to rat on their neighbors, too.
We don't call it ratting.
But it is.
No. To us, it's not ratting. To us, it's community control.
Tell me something. If one of you saw one of your neighbors doing something wrong on the floor, would you report it?
I would. Do it all the time.
The rules at Cochrane are uncompromising. A strict 9:30 p.m. curfew against loitering. No children over 12 allowed in the play area. And to enforce the rules, each building has a captain, and each floor has its own captain. Kind of neighborhood snoops.
Gilkey, I'm the president of Cochrane.
To keep outsiders out, Cochrane tenants hire their own security.
Most of the people that tell me the rules are too tough are usually some of the younger teenagers.
What do they resent most of all?
Oh, well, they resent that they can't hang. They want to hang.
Hang out.
In front of the buildings. They want to play their music loud. They want to hang in the halls. They want to gamble on the steps in front of the building. They want to sell a little dope, They want to be able to run into Cochrane with their hot goods and sell them. And we don't tolerate that. This building here that I grew up in, 1112 North 8th. 10 years ago, the police came in and they shot up the entire building. And that building became the Vietnam building. And kids could have been killed. I mean, stoves, refrigerators were just ricocheted. That will never happen again in Cochran. Never. We'll die first before we live like that again.
Every applicant for Cochran must submit to an inspection of their present home by the screening committee.
I'm Mrs. Oldham from the Cochran Management Office, and this is Mr. Turner. How you doing? This is Mrs. Blewett. We're here to make a home visit.
Then a meeting with the committee that could be a page out of the Moscow Housing Authority handbook.
Okay, Mrs. Blewett, have you or anyone in your family been arrested for felony?
No.
Every aspect of an applicant's life is scrutinized, with particular attention, in this case, to one 9-year-old boy.
What are some of the methods that you use to punish if he does, do something wrong?
The things that he enjoyed doing, he can't do it. Of course, watch TV or go play, ride his bike.
Take away his privileges.
Right.
Okay. How do you control your child when you're at work? Where are they at?
My family watching for me. My younger sister.
How old is this person, your younger sister?
16.
16.
Excuse me a minute. Your sister is 16 years old. She's not old enough to be a babysitter here in Cochran, so you have to find other supervision.
Then afterwards, each applicant is graded. Points given for each aspect of their lives. A failing grade means no apartment at Cochran.
But let this give us a 1, because her supervision is really bad.
She's not having a stable babysitter.
It's not steady. It's not a steady babysitter.
Mrs. Blewett got in. She got better marks on the rest of the test.
I know there's a problem in the community center. You know why I know? Because there's too many of you all hanging. There's too many of you all hanging around.
Once in Cochran, the main emphasis is on child control. A whole family can be evicted if one child is considered a menace. That is, possession of drugs, a weapon, stealing, or just for being what used to be called incorrigible. These two young men got into trouble. Bertha Gilkey had pleaded for leniency once before, but this time the board of directors seemed determined to deal out harsh punishment. In the end, Mabel Coney, the manager of Cochran, decides the families of both boys must go.
I'll counsel them, or the social service director counsel them, the birthday counsel them, and I don't have any more counseling for those families. I just want this board to know that I will be serving termination at the end of the month.
Both families. It can be heartbreaking, but the policy is that you have to be responsible for the people in your household. The only way that you can keep Cochran a neighborhood and not a project, the people have to be taught to be responsible morally. Just because we're poor doesn't mean we shouldn't be responsible.
I had a problem with one of my sons that I had to send him away and take him off my lease.
When your son was acting up, were you threatened?
Was I threatened?
Were you threatened with eviction?
Yes, I was.
You mean your friends around this table were going to chuck you?
Oh, at the time, we might not have been that close friends, but it worked out.
What did you do?
I sent my son to my mother in Mississippi because I had to have a place for the rest of my children to live. And one child could not put the whole family outdoors.
How do the rules here at Cochran compare with the Housing Authority's rules?
Well, we don't make rules that is different from the housing authorities. We just make sure that we enforce ours, you see.
Why can't they be enforced by the Housing Authority when they're the management group?
Because the tenant management is here, and there's people that doing these things that you just don't want to live next door to. The Housing Authority do not live here, and they'll let them get away with a lot of the stuff.
Yeah, look, it's very well to be able to say, we police this place, we screen everybody who comes in here, we throw out the people with bad debts and the drug pushers and everything else. Where are they supposed to go? One of the mandates of public housing is to house those in need of a place to live.
Public housing was not built for dope pushers. It was not built for killers. It was not built for thieves. It was not built for people who tear up the property. and who shoot little children. That is not what public housing was built for. Public housing was built for low-income people, moderate-income people. And what has happened to public housing, it has become the dumping ground for the city's problems. That's not my problem, Morley. I'm not the mayor yet of St. Louis. If I was the mayor, then those people would be my problem. I'm only the president of Cochran Tenant Management. And as the president of Cochran Tenant Management, representing a whole lot of poor people, we're not going to let them cause us to not have somewhere to live.
Tenant management seems to work on here, but it's not a cure-all. I mean, even you have some problems. There's some vandalism going on.
Yes, but we work on it. It's a constant working on that we do.
Drugs, for example. Can you ever really clean up drug dealers, given that you're in this neighborhood in this part of town?
Yes, because I'm telling you, you and I could not sit here today with this interview if there was drugs, real drugs in Cochran.
Why is that?
You would be shot and robbed all at the same time. And nobody would care. People would go their own way. And particularly because you're white, you couldn't come in.
That, I must say, is something I noticed walking in here. I've been in other public housing in other big cities, largely black neighborhoods. And you could, the resentment was almost palpable. You could feel it when you walked on.
You don't feel that in Cochran?
Not at all?
We're a neighborhood, Morley. We're not a project.
Tenant management hasn't worked everywhere it's been tried in St. Louis, and as well as it works at Cochran, it does have its problems. There are allegations of petty corruption and of favoritism by the management.
Miss Richards.
There are even those who say Bertha Gilkey is in this for her own aggrandizement. But even her enemies concede she is a powerhouse.
Is that 123 store?
Bertha Gilkey is taking her show on the road, accepting invitations to help organize other tenants. Chicago, with its awesome public housing problems, would seem to need 100 Bertha Gilkeys to make even a dent. In New York, in East Harlem, she's training people to be tenant managers and warning them of the new threat against all inner cities, gentrification.
The neighborhood is gradually moving to look like Park Avenue. Now, there's nothing wrong. Don't think I'm not advocating that all of East Harlem should look like Park Avenue, because it should. But we wanted to look like Park Avenue with you here, okay?
Do you think you're going to get a more sympathetic hearing from your point of view about public housing from a Democratic administration or from a Republican administration?
It's sad. It's really sad for me to say this because I am a die-hard Democrat. But we have received more, at least no money, but at least recognition of what we're trying to do by the Republican administration. In fact, had I been male, white, I probably would have been written up in the Time magazine for the things that we've done.
Well, 60 Minutes ain't no slouch.
I know it. I love it. I love it.
Bigger circulation in Time magazine,
I'm so
too.
glad you finally found me.